What's going on, grunts? Big request. Lots of requests for this one. So we'll just call this the Grunt Proof Book Club. Some educational, philosophical stuff. We're going to go through my collection. Some things I recommend, and if you're in the market, where you can get them. So grab your coffee. Let's get to it. All right. So I kind of divide these up a grunt way. So we got skill books, kind of structural things. We've got historical books. It's good to know history before it's all 1980 forward. Philosophical, which, could get into theology and stuff like that. We'll talk about that. And then kind of entertainment, all right? It is good to read for entertainment, and I have some special books that I think you guys might enjoy. Okay, so first let's talk about some of the skill and structural books or instructional books. Okay, so of course, the Bible is one of them. So the King James Bible is good. This is kind of a different commercial version, but this one has very sentimental value to me. All right, this was handed to me after losing a very close friend, one of my very close childhood friends. So it's got the same stuff in it. But it has a special meaning to me, so that's why I keep that one. And I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm not a big religious type of dude, but I do appreciate the lessons and the background. And if you want to read some really good things with your kids, you can read Proverbs. I'll go to the Proverbs section anytime and pull it out and read some stuff to my kids. And there's a lot of great lessons in there, okay? But very good kind of guidebook, all right? And then this is more of an instruction manual. I have a larger version behind me. We got a pocket constitution. I've always found that, people say, well, you can just read about stuff on your phone whenever you're out and about. Well, you don't, and you're not. Most people don't. So I like to actually carry one everywhere I go, and I'd rather pull this out and reference it. Now, this is more of an instruction. What people kind of pass over, the Constitution is not the Declaration, right? And it's not the Bill of Rights. The Constitution is kind of the instruction manual for how to run our government, and it's a rule book for the government, not us. It doesn't give us our rights, okay? Our Bill of Rights guarantees our rights, but the Constitution is like the rule book. So, Charters of Freedom, Declaration of Independence, U.S. Constitution, and Bill of Rights. So, keeping with that theme, got my whole main stack over here. I still have some up there, but this is pretty important. So, in order, you see these philosophical debates happening all the time. People are debating what the Second Amendment means, what the First Amendment means. Well, this is not what they meant. This is not the intentions. Okay. Well, if you want to know their actual intentions, you get this book. This is the Federalist Papers. All right. Hamilton and his guys. This is kind of like their arguments. They were publishing papers at the time supporting, a strong federal government. All right. So Federalist Papers. Some people don't realize this. Some people do, but even Federalists, if they were around today, these are the pro-strong federal government. If these guys were around today, they'd be hanging people, all right? So don't think, pro-strong federal government is inherently a bad thing, all right? Because they did cover a lot of problems we're having today. A strong federal government that did its job would not allow this border crisis to happen. That's just an example. Okay, and then behind that, this is the next most important, like the British hip-hop people climbing a mountain, the Anti-Federalist Papers. This has kind of been more 1980 forward, and it's going to continue to get more hidden. These were the guys arguing against a strong federal government, a strong centralized government, an overarching power. So you combine the two, and you can get a very good historical perspective on what they all meant when they figured this out, okay? So if you want to argue about the 10th Amendment, states' rights and stuff, and problems we're having today, it all comes back to these guys. You read these guys' arguments, and you'll see so many parallels. It's ridiculous. Um, Let me see if I can find a quick example. Here we go. Perfect page. You got to have a bookmark. Okay, so they're talking about such various, extensive, and important powers combined in one body of men are inconsistent with all freedom. Let's see. All right. So there's also a big thing in the beginning. They'll kind of outline a standing army. We actually, the National Defense Authorization Act that we redo every 2 years. Why do we redo it every 2 years? Because the instruction manual says so. They actually follow the Constitution with that. Problem is, if we're always at war with everybody else and ourselves, we always have a justification to have a huge, massive standing army. That's not down at the border, right? Doing national defense. Okay, so that's those. Now we'll just kind of go, let's see, that's kind of entertainment. Now let's look at some tactical stuff. All right. I do have a Ranger handbook, but it's actually down on my toilet. Because the missus said the guests need reading material, so I put the fucking Ranger handbook down there. Now let me give you guys a warning. All of these FMs and pocket manuals, if you get them on Amazon, which is where all of this stuff is linked, if you want to pick any of it up, be very cautious what kind you get. The better Ranger handbook I have in my Amazon store is the one you want. All these pocket-sized editions of all these like CST manuals and Ranger handbook and stuff, I've tried many of them, and I've utilized Amazon's free returns, probably with more than 10 of these. They're small and they're pocket-sized, but the text is unreadable, right? So you need a magnifying glass. So that kind of defeats the purpose of a freaking field manual. So the one I have linked is it's a larger size. It's not a pocket version, but it's one that you can actually read. The one I put down in the toilet is the pocket sized, and that's why I put it in the toilet, because nobody can fucking read it, but it gives people something to look at. Okay, so this is my Bible, or my second Bible. 3-21.8. It used to be 7-8. It used to be the 7-8, right? FM. The Infantry, Rifle, Platoon, and Squad. This is the Infantryman's Bible, right? So I always talk about this. Tactics, well, let's say like war and everything changes, but squad, small unit tactics rarely change, right? We just update a couple things, add to our SOPs and TTPs, but tactics basically remain the same. So my bookmark for this is one of the GTAs, graphic training aids. So we got survival, evasion, recovery. Little GTAs like this are good to have. Just randomly pick them up when you find them. I think there's some websites that actually host GTAs. Just go Google it. But my 7-8 I have in my other location. If I compare these two, the main updates are mounted and dismounted differences, indirect fire, and there's a lot more mount stuff, military operations and urban terrain, CQB, what the cool guys call it. That's it. Most of the battle drills and reporting and stuff like that, most of it's essentially the same. Okay. Outstanding book. That's in the link as well. The problem with these, I'm running out of room. All right, just throw it down. The problem with these field manuals is, especially with skills, you can't read the Ranger handbook or any of this stuff and go out and do it. You will have no clue what you're doing. So if you have somebody in your group that's been deployed or had some kind of experience doing this stuff, you got to have that guy on the field with you going through the book, or at least interpreting what he remembers from the book and explaining things and breaking them down. You know, when I did my EIB test, it was like 72 something infantrymen tasks that we tested on, and it's all perishable skills. all of it. And in the combat world, you know, 90+% of what you do is everything except pulling the trigger. Okay. So actually train the stuff and rehearse that stuff. All right. Too many guys skip that. So while we're on that subject, this is a cool series of books I've come across recently. This is the Prepared Professional Citizen Project. I've got two of them. So we've got Reconnaissance. It's Jack Morris. Really good series of books. And then we got Jay Pallardy's Adverse Conditions and Environments, his ACE manual. Now, these are basically taking military field manuals, breaking them down, kind of like a buffet, taking out the good stuff, leaving the bad stuff in, and combining them into basic field manuals for, like, you know, civil defense, MAG, CERT, fucking Minuteman guys. Very good series of books. I believe Jay has a new book coming out very soon, so check that out. But yeah, those are in the store link as well. I highly recommend those. And it's basically, I don't know, man. It's, you know, I just found out about these guys recently, and it's like, dude, that's what I've been trying to do. Just teach military shit to regular people. Okay, so this is kind of funny. You'll get into books like this. It says Department of Defense, but there's not any kind of nomenclature. It's just a book. So as it turns out, this is not like an official military publication, but it's a bunch of veterans who wrote up some good stuff. So survival, evasion, and recovery. Pretty basic stuff, and it is laid out like a field manual. So step-by-step process, right? Some good stuff in there. This is another one. It says the official Army Survival Manual. It's not official. Never saw this. However, this one is good. So this is like a good, you know, bring it out camping. It's a good field reference. Bring it out with you. Read through it with your buddies when you're doing training. Go through it. You can pick out tasks. They have task condition standards in here. So you just, hey, we're going to train this. This is how we're going to test it. Go. This book has stuff like this. Edibles and non-edibles. All right. That's shit that guys like me suck at big time. We got snakes, identification, regions. You've got things, where things grow based on the environment and stuff. So, you know, we got signaling. All right. So this is a good reference book to have around the house. You know, read it on the turlet, whatever. Making weapons. So a lot of the survivalists and bushcrafters on YouTube, they're basically doing videos about this stuff. This book was first. But they put it in video format. Good for them. All right. Now, okay, more skills books. We'll get to those. So I preach this book nonstop. I will continue to, unless you're a serious weightlifter and you're already strong as shit, like 400 plus deadlift, 400 plus squat. You need to do a basic strength training program. Everybody benefits from getting stronger, period. No argument. This is the way to start. This book is less than $30, right? So as I've said before, we are running a cool combat fitness study right now as this is being made. My entire degree, my entire bachelor's degree in exercise science can be summed up into this book. All right. So Ripito is so freaking smart on this stuff. He can take an entire Brooks and Fahey kinesiology, physiology book and condense it into what makes sense. All right. Any dummy can pick this up and read it and understand how the entire body works. Watch some of their videos on technique and start getting strong, like strong as fuck. Right. So this is a good one. This is kind of like the strength training Bible. It's the best starting strength program in the world. That's why it's called Starting Strength. So guys always in the comments who probably don't do anything, they're always talking about Jim Wendler, 531, you know, Menzer, high intensity training, fucking fine, Texas method. Those are intermediate to advanced programs. So if you're talking about that, you're either strong as shit and you're not putting your numbers up or you're lying. I'm going to err on the latter. Almost always. More skills. Getting into comms. You should get into comms. This is the best radio book I have read. Okay. And look how thin it is. All right. So there's little to no ham nerd bullshit in here. There's no antenna theory and philosophical horse shit that wastes your time. You can't read this book and go pass your ham test, but also most of the ham guys who pass their test probably don't understand this book because this is real world practice. This is things you can do to be a badass in the field with a radio. So that's NC Scout. Shout out to him. Outstanding freaking book. Avoid the knockoffs. There's a couple knockoffs on Amazon. This is the one. It's gonna have his NC Scout, and it's gonna look like that. So if you see like Baofeng Bible and shit, it's garbage. If you do get it, make sure you go leave him a review. That's good stuff. Okay, we missed one. Strength training. So when I talk about strength training, all the older gentlemen, they assume I'm a 18-year-old stud and I have no problems. Okay, I get it. The thing is, I'm not older, but I am a broken warrior. Okay, so when we get into strength training stuff, these guys will send me a list of their ailments, and I'm like, yeah, I have most of those same problems too. Well, deadlift doesn't hurt your back. Squat doesn't hurt your back. How do you do this? Blah, blah, blah. I would die. My knees would explode. All right, well, there should be a series of books or a book for older or broken warriors. How can you train an older age to take... I don't want to pick it up. The starting strength model that basically, if you're older or you have issues, starting strength will get you to very good, solid strength numbers without having to go see a professional coach. But you're going to get to a certain point where the 5 pounds per workout, so adding 15 pounds to the bar every week, no longer works. Okay. So the younger dudes, they're going to split off to start doing intermediate lifting, like modified novice linear progression, Texas method, 5-3-1 stuff. They're going to start to go that route because they have to manipulate their training to continue to get stronger. Once you're over a 300-pound squat or, 350-ish deadlift, if you're older or one of the broken combat vets like me, you got to make a choice. Do I risk everything, possibly kill myself, or I can't walk all week because I'm trying to get up to that 400, 500-pound deadlift? Or do I switch to a smarter training plan for either my age or my level of brokenness? Okay. So that brings up the Barbell Prescription. Okay. This name down here, Andy Baker, he helped co-author Starting Strength with Ripito. So this book has one of the main authors for Starting Strength, and then you've also got this Dr. Sullivan. On the internet, he's called Gray Steel Fitness, and everybody calls him Sully. Actual medical doctor. They put this book together for older or broken warriors. Okay. Can you get this book and avoid starting strength? Absolutely. This basically lines up the same methods, philosophy, methodology, all the same shit in the beginning, and it tailors it to the older population, obese people who are older and just starting off. And then you kind of get into workout progressions beyond starting strength, but not trying to get up to a 500-pound deadlift. But how can you keep strong lifts without breaking yourself and being, I'm telling you guys, when you start picking up and squatting heavier weights and you're, 35 or older or 40 something and you're broken, yeah, it's going to suck. Okay. So I like to be able to enjoy life and continue to run around and play sports. I like to run around with my kids and chase them and beat them in races and stuff. Going for a 500-pound deadlift won't do that because I won't be able to walk for a month. Okay. This book does that. When you have back tweaks, like basically if you're over 35 years old, you have chronic back pain. Every dude does. This book gets you through back tweaks where your back is jacked up for a month, but you can still keep training. You train through it without being a dummy. Things like that, right? So if you got to pick one, get this book. I think it's also less than $30, man. Just the value is insane. So this is almost like another college degree in one freaking less than $30 book. It's unbelievable how cheap these are. Okay, one more kind of skills thing. This is a fun one. So a lot of guys know The Art of the Deal. Donald Trump. That's a good book still. A lot of people are, you got these internet gurus and investment guys and cold callers. Like everybody thinks they want to be a car salesman all of a sudden, and it's going to get them Bugattis and shit. I did a pretty good negotiation course. Well, we all did before going to Afghanistan because they knew with the VSO we were going to be working with like village elders and even Taliban leaders. They knew we were going to be working with high power local leaders who see us with our clean shaven faces, and baby faces. And even though I've been to combat several times, they just think we're little girls. They don't care. So if you are in a position of power and you hold the power, you're basically in charge. All right. So a lot of guys like to look at negotiations from a power position. This book is in the opposite direction, and I think it's better. Okay. I actually got this. We did one of my business courses. That was my first degree. So crucial conversations. Think about it like negotiations where you can't just walk away or you don't hold all the power. So a job that you can't just leave, a job where you're not the boss and you're not in charge and you can't be an asshole. Your marriage, very good marriage book. Dealing with your friends, asshole friends, dealing with family, dealing with people in everyday life that you are stuck dealing with and you can't flex your authority or power onto them. This is that book, okay? So my first degree was management, business management stuff. One of the classes, it was taught by this really business savvy dude that was, he was extremely wealthy, but it was just cool how down to earth and humble he was. And he was still teaching just for the fun of it. Our entire course about business deals and negotiating, instead of using the school book that cost $200, he gave us a copy of these. So my teacher gave this to me, just handed them to us all that he bought himself or, recycled, whatever. He just handed these to us and he's like, all right, we're supposed to learn this book, but I don't like that one. This one's better. Go through this. So we spent a whole, what's the term? 8 weeks, 9 weeks of a class covering this book. Okay, so anyway, negotiations and stuff when you're not, freaking Donald Trump or you don't have $1 million. Good book, man. Read it, apply it. It helps you. I don't know. I've dealt with like road rage and crazy situations. So if you are a concealed carrier or you're an actual American that carries, you don't want to shoot people. You don't want to get in fights and stuff. This kind of helps in those situations, right? Last time I'm going to show it. There it is again. Boom. Should definitely be reading that one. All right. So, okay. One more historical thing. I just did an interview with this guy, Tommy Clark. Kind of what we should expect coming up. It happened in 2016. It happened in 2020. It's going to happen again. Really good read. This dude, he's still in the military, but he's kind of unsure if he's going to go back to law enforcement. But hearing their story from the ground is really good. You can also hear some tactics in the interview we did, how they dealt with some of these insane people tactics. All right. This is another historical reference. So a lot of you guys know Andrew Jackson. This is not written by him, but it's about him a lot. Let's see. Remini. This is very cool, man. A lot of people don't know about, or the War of 1812 has kind of been 1984 because it wasn't a big combined effort with like the Revolution was kind of worldwide influence, big support from all over, many countries involved. The War of 1812 was mostly fought by Southerners, regular Continental Army, fucking lots of militia, and a lot of local Indian tribes, right? So this is very cool. Very cool. But it goes back to Jackson's earlier days like all the way back to like French and American and Indian wars. All right. So when there was some horrible shit going on. But it kind of comes to head at the Battle of New Orleans, which was kind of the main turning point for that war. So Good freaking historical book, man. Devastating stuff in there, People think we're evil for what our federal government did to the locals, but you'll read about what they did to our people, and both. It was a war, right? Now, most of you guys know this. A lot of youngins don't. This is a good book. Now, just overall kind of arts, philosophical, you know, why, things like that. Good book to read, entertaining, doesn't take forever. I actually haven't read this one in a while, so I think we're going to go through it again soon. Now, purely entertainment. All right, I've got a couple entertainment books, but I just wanted to point this one out. This is the second book of this series. This one's kind of old now. I believe this came out in 2015 or 16. It's hilarious because this is supposedly fiction, but this author, he's kind of turned into a dipshit on Twitter. He's kind of gone like, I don't know, whatever you guys are calling neocons these days. He was a infantry officer, all right? Supposedly actual combat veteran. The books are amazing, though. The whole series is good. I think this is the second one. The first one is Engan Country. That's awesome read. All right, so it's supposed to be fiction, but the stuff he lined out here in, this one might be 2013 or 15 or something. Okay, so this one is 2016. This is the second book. So the first one, Engan Country, must be, 2015-ish. All the strange things that are happening with our country splitting geographically, politically, and everything, he called it in this book. It's insane. So read this. This is after America's already split and the Civil War is already happening. We're talking about breaking in or sneaking into the occupied territories, the obvious places. The coffee is so rationed, it's watered down like poop water, worse than army coffee. A hamburger is most likely rat meat that costs $300 because of the climate crime. Climate crime and the 1984 terminology, he brought this stuff back first before it became popular. It's freaking awesome, man. And Engan Country is even better. One more for entertainment. This one hits home for me. A lot of people think the mafia and mobsters and that stuff died off with Al Capone. I like to say it didn't die off. They just took over the unions and the government. Pretty much look at how unions operate in cooperation with the government and, the major industries. That's 100% mafia shit and mob stuff. But in the 70s and 80s, there was big mafia shit or mob stuff going around in the Gulf Coast area. So this one actually hits home. There's a lot of names in here from my hometown, and there's a lot of clubs and areas they talk about, like the sheriff. I knew his name when I was a kid. It's called the Dream Room. It's about the Dixie Mafia. That's definitely an entertaining read. There's a lot of historical stuff in here. There's like high-level murders in the government from back then. And I believe this story goes all the way up into the late 70s. So pretty modern as far as those tales go, those stories. So you'll read about machine gun freaking mob hits and stuff. And, D'Iberville, Gulfport, friggin' Picayune, Mississippi and shit. And it's like in the 70s. It's pretty cool, man. So that is definitely a good one. And I also like it because it's close to home for me. Very cool. Okay, so I think that's it, guys. Some of the books. No, that's not it. Okay. So I've got a whole freaking group of books that are not physically here with me. With that being said, you should get these books in print. They're already 1984ing Webster's Dictionary and Merriam dictionaries. So you need to have shit in print because they are changing things. Also, if you got something on a Kindle or a device, anything electronic, when you lose power, you can't use it. And if it's a digital download, they can withdraw that shit, right? You don't own that. It's just like video games. I have a Super Nintendo from when I was a kid. I can play those anytime. Nintendo Switch can't take that from me, right? So, some of the books I don't have here, I got some kind of allergy thing going on. I'm allergic to bullshit. Read too many of y'all's comments. Uh, Scouting Guide to Survival from the Boy Scouts. So a lot of good military stuff we got came from like late 1800s or the late teen hundreds, the late 1800s. You know, pioneers and stuff. People just freaking plowing their routes across the country. The scouts picked up those lessons and taught those lessons. And then a lot of the good fieldcraft stuff the military gets, you know, tracking, survival, hunting, a lot of that shit's from back in those days. All right, so that's one, the Scouting Guide to Survival. And again, these are all on my list. Mao's Guerrilla Warfare. You should know that. Really good stuff in there. Back to Basics. That's kind of like a homestead prepping book. There's a lot of projects in there, and it's kind of like an off-grid project book. So there's some pretty advanced stuff in there, but you know, like doing your first growth of potatoes, it's not complicated, but you know, a dummy like me, it was helpful to read steps on that. And then you got all these little water projects and things you could do. And again, it should be print, because then you can read it when shit's gone away. The Communist Manifesto. Okay, you should understand that book. You should know it, because there's this new American Communist Party, and they actually push those ideals, and they call themselves real commies, which is more respectable than these socialist idiot kids running around today. But you know, if you argue with those kids, like, they've never even read their own Bible. So, but it's good to understand that. You should understand both sides of every argument, because it makes you smarter. You're wiser, and you can also argue against that crap better. And then you kind of know what's coming, you know. So then there's one called Empire of the Summer. It's about Comanches, badass freaking tribe. Then there's two books from Stephen, is it Ranella or Rennell? Steve Rennell. Big hunting guy. He does the Meat Eater show on YouTube. There's a wilderness book, which is pretty standard kind of survival bushcraft stuff. And then there's a hunting and butchering book. My favorite is the butchering one, because it teaches, you know, most of us grew up hunting, or we've at least been exposed to it. But if you're not dressing stuff on a pretty regular basis, that is a very perishable skill. And you should know, if you just go out there trying to cut shit up and you haven't practiced it at all and you barely know what to do, you're going to either ruin a lot of meat, or you're going to get yourself and everybody sick. Okay. So that's a good book to have printed, because it's like step by step. You got this animal, you want to do this with it, boom, go. So you could, I mean, it's a huge book, you know, but you could take notes. All right, well, this is the game we're after today or this week. This is how we freaking field dress it, right? So you get out there, you're a bunch of dodos who can't remember anything. If I can pull it out step by step, man, how to field dress it and pack it out. And then there's storage. They have like off-grid storage stuff, like with pink salt and everything. Really good stuff, man. Homemade jerky. All right. Okay, we mentioned Engan Country, the first book of that. And then we got Across the Fence, Stryker Meyer. That's more entertainment, but there's a good historical perspective to it. So when I talk about this Minuteman stuff, and I'll talk about reconnaissance patrols and everything like that, I think that's the way, you know, again, tactics, small unit tactics don't really change that much. But comparing my experience in the Global War on Terror to like their experience, if we're talking about American civil defense and just anything happening in our homeland, it's really not going to be this CQB running and gunning. We have the upper hand with massive support stuff. It's really going to be small groups of dudes just trying to gather some freaking intel or get from one point to the other. So it's going to be heavy stealth and reconnaissance. But I err on the side of carry fuck tons of ammo. Okay, the LERPs and the MACV SOG guys, they didn't go out looking for trouble, but you better believe they were ready for it. All right. So even with them carrying 20 to 30 magazines, they still had all the air support and everything. Now imagine you're a small reconnaissance team, 4 to 6 dudes out in the hills after, you know, whatever goes down. You got Jim Billy Bomb, who hasn't fucking worked out in a while and didn't listen to Grunt Proof and start rucking. You see what I'm getting at? You know, firepower. Light as possible and stealthy, but firepower. All right. That's some of the lessons I drew from the Mac V SOG stuff. Yeah, so I don't know, man. I think we're good. That's kind of cool. You guys have been bugging the shit out of me about that. So there you go. Once again, that list is down there in the description. So, you know, the haters who got to make a dime. Like I'm forcing you to go buy shit. Proverbs 24/7. Go read that, you haters. All right. Thanks, guys. See you next time. I don't know how to end videos. It's like Ricky Bobby. We got it. Oh, please like and subscribe, and please share this video. I don't know. Fuck. Get fucked. See you next time. What's